Have you ever wondered why the Sabbath, a day of rest, is given such a profound significance in sacred scriptures? This concept of the Sabbath, as illustrated in the book of Genesis, is deeply rooted in divine significance. It was on the seventh day, after 6 laborious days of shaping and forming the universe, the cosmos in all its grandeur and glory, God elected to rest. This conscious act of rest was not merely a cessation in divine effort or labor. It was much more. It was a sanctification, a consecration of this day, setting it apart from the rest of the week. This momentous act is detailed in Genesis 2:3, which reads, "By the seventh day God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done." This sanctification was not a random, whimsical decision. It was a divine ordinance, a prototype for the rest of humanity to emulate. Being created in his image, as reflected in Genesis 1:27, we are implicitly asked, almost commanded, to observe the Sabbath, to allocate time for rest, rejuvenation, and deep contemplation. So, what does this mean for us in our daily lives? Genesis 2:3 serves not just as a historical documentation of an event, but as an eternal beacon, a reminder of the divine origin and deep signification of the Sabbath. It emphasizes the sanctity, the sacredness, and the definite purpose of this day. The consecration of the seventh day is not merely a historical event that transpired at the dawn of creation. It represents an ongoing directive, a timeless principle that is meant to synchronize us with the divine intent. But let's delve a bit deeper into the subject. The consecration of the seventh day implies a call to action for all of humanity. It's not just a negotiable suggestion, a friendly advice, but a divine imperative, a mandate. It underscores the absolute non-negotiable nature of Sabbath observance for those who seek to live in alignment, in harmony with the divine intent. Therefore, when we observe the Sabbath, we are not just preserving an old religious tradition. We are aligning ourselves with a divine precedent, a norm set at the very dawn of creation. We are participating in an act of sanctification, setting aside time from the hustle and bustle of life to rest and reflect, just as God did at the completion of creation. This divine precedent, set at the dawn of creation, underscores the inherent sanctity and purpose of the Sabbath. As Christianity evolved, so did its observance of the Sabbath. The transition wasn't swift or abrupt, but a gradual unfolding across history. A key player in this evolution was Ignatius of Antioch, an influential figure in the early Christian era. His voice, reverberating through time, offers us an invaluable insight into the gradual shift in religious customs among the earliest followers of Christ. Ignatius was an eloquent scholar who penned many insightful works. Notably, in his epistle to the Magnesians, he provides a vivid first-hand account of the changing religious practices. His observations are strikingly candid and profound. He realized the seismic shift that was underway and documented it lucidly in his writings. He wrote, "If therefore those who were brought up in the ancient order of things have come to the possession of a new hope, no longer observing the Sabbath, but living in the observance of the Lord's day." These words carry significant weight. Essentially, Ignatius was highlighting the pivotal shift from age-old Jewish customs, such as Sabbath keeping, towards a new focus on the Lord's Day. The Lord's Day, the first day of the week, embodies the resurrection of Christ, an integral part of Christian faith. This change in observance was not a repudiation of the Sabbath. Instead, it was a meaningful transition in hope and practice. It signaled a critical juncture in Christian history, a moment when the early followers of Christ began to delineate their identity separate from their Jewish lineage. They wholeheartedly embraced the Lord's Day as a unique hallmark of Christian practice. This day became a day of rest and worship that paralleled the original intent of the Sabbath, but was steeped in the profound significance of Christ's resurrection. However, it's crucial to underscore that this transition wasn't about discarding the old for the sake of the new. It wasn't about disowning traditions, but about evolving in response to the teachings of Christ. It was about exploring new avenues to honor God and uphold the sanctity of a day of rest and worship. The early Christians, guided by the wisdom of figures like Ignatius of Antioch, were not forgoing the concept of the Sabbath. They were reimagining it, reforming it to synchronize with their newfound faith and the hope they discovered in the resurrection of Christ. This paradigm shift is more than a footnote in Christian history. It is a testament to the endurance of age-old traditions, even as they evolve and adapt. This shift not only marks a defining moment in Christian history, but also reaffirms the continued importance of a day of rest and worship. But what happens when there are differing beliefs on the observance of the Sabbath among Christians? This conundrum is something that has long been confronted within the Christian faith and was evidently a topic of concern even in the time of the Apostle Paul. As highlighted in his profound epistle to the Romans, specifically chapter 14, Paul grapples with these kinds of disputes. Here he crafts a narrative that underscores the importance of unity and mutual respect, even when faced with disagreements on secondary issues. Among these secondary issues, one of the more prominent topics discussed is the observance of the Sabbath. Through Paul's teachings in this chapter, we uncover a fundamental truth about Christianity. It is not meant to be a one-size-fits-all religion, where everyone is expected to conform strictly to set rules and regulations. Christianity, as depicted by Paul, is a faith that embraces diversity. Christians all around the globe come a plethora of diverse backgrounds, cultures, and traditions. Each individual brings with them their unique perspectives and interpretations of the faith, coloring the religion with their own personal experiences and understandings. This diversity, while a strength, can also lead to differing beliefs on various aspects of Christianity, including the observance of the Sabbath. Yet it is precisely this point that Paul seeks to address. He urges Christians not to allow these differences to sow the seeds of division. Instead, he emphasizes that each person should be fully convinced in their own mind about such matters. It follows, therefore, that a believer observes the Sabbath. They do so in honor of the Lord. Conversely, if they choose not to observe the Sabbath, they are still choosing to honor the Lord in their own way. The focus, according to Paul, should not be on the act of observance itself, but rather on the intent behind it. This, however, does not mean that the Sabbath is insignificant or irrelevant. Quite the contrary. Sabbath holds a special place in Christian tradition, providing a time for rest, reflection, and connection with God. But Paul's message presents a clear notion. The way one observes the Sabbath should be a personal decision, guided by one's own conviction and bolstered by their relationship with God. Moreover, the teachings of Paul underscore the critical importance of unity in the Christian community. He champions the idea of Christians accepting those who may have different practices, not for the purpose of quarreling over differing opinions, but to foster mutual respect and understanding. This unity, Paul argues, is more important than any secondary issue, including Sabbath observance. So, while they may not directly influence the matter of salvation, it plays a pivotal role in fostering cohesion and unity within the Christian community. The Sabbath is a time for Christians to come together, to rest and to reflect, regardless of how they choose to observe it. And in this, Paul's message resonates. Mutual respect, understanding and unity should always take precedence. While the Sabbath may not be a matter of salvation, its observance fosters cohesion and unity within the Christian community. So, what does this all mean for the modern Christian? Looking at the transitions recognized by early church fathers and Paul's teachings, we discern Christian observance to be flexible, not a rigid construct. It's a dynamic practice, constantly adapting while still preserving a delicate equilibrium between tradition and change. The Sabbath, rooted in Genesis, was hallowed as a day of rest, a divine model for mankind. Early Christians adapted this, shifting their attention to the Lord's Day, a day symbolizing Christ's resurrection. But the Sabbath's core, rest, reflection and worship, remained intact. Paul's teachings in Romans 14 emphasize this adaptability. He promotes respect and unity in the diverse interpretations of observance, thereby fostering a cohesive Christian community. It's a testament to the adaptability and unifying potential of Christian observance. It shows how Christian observance, while shaped by tradition, is not tethered to it. It reaffirms that it can evolve, adapt and grow without losing its core essence. Through this dynamic process, Christian observance remains an integral part of the believer's journey, a guiding light in their spiritual life. It underscores the importance of balance and adaptability. It encourages us to be open to change while still remaining deeply rooted in our faith. Regardless of the shifts and changes over time, the Sabbath's essence remains, a day of rest, reflection and alignment with divine intent.